Good Tuesday morning, Patriots, and welcome back to O'Connor's Right Stand. I'm your host, John O'Connor, software programmer by day, conservative truth seeker by night. This story is big, but I feel most of mainstream media is looking past it. Last Wednesday, President Trump pardoned Democrat Congressman Henry Cuellar of Texas and his wife Imelda. The media barely covered it, but then Sunday happened. Cuellar went on Fox News and dropped a bomb that should be front-page news everywhere. He admitted on national television that Biden's Department of Justice tried to entrap him. They tried to bribe him with a fake company and a fake bank account. And when his staff refused the money, the DOJ still indicted him anyway. This is a sitting Democrat congressman saying out loud what we've been screaming for years. The Department of Justice under Biden was weaponized against political enemies. And it wasn't just Republicans. They went after their own party members who dared to speak out against open borders. Here's the question I want you thinking about as we go through this. If they will do this to one of their own, what won't they do to silence opposition? The Right Stand starts now. Let me set the stage. Last Wednesday, December 3rd, President Trump announced on Truth Social that he was issuing a full and unconditional pardon to Representative Henry Cuellar, Democrat from Texas's 28th Congressional District, and his wife Imelda. Now, Cuellar isn't your typical Democrat. He represents Laredo, Texas, right on the southern border. He's been in Congress for 20 years, and unlike most Democrats, he's been one of the loudest voices against Biden's open border catastrophe. In May 2024, Biden's DOJ indicted Cuellar and his wife on charges of accepting approximately $600,000 in bribes from Azerbaijan oil and gas company and a Mexican bank. And yes, I did have to look up that country. The charges included bribery, money laundering, conspiracy, and acting as an unregistered foreign agent. The trial was originally scheduled for September 2025, then pushed to April 2026. But with Trump's pardon last week, that trial will never happen. Trump's statement on Truth Social was vintage Trump. He wrote, "For years, the Biden administration weaponized the justice system against their political opponents and anyone who disagreed with them. One of the clearest examples of this was when Crooked Joe used the FBI and DOJ to take out a member of his own party, and highly respected Congressman Henry Cuellar bravely spoke out against open borders and the Biden border catastrophe." Trump continued, "Sleepy Joe went after the congressman, and even the congressman's wonderful wife Imelda, simply for speaking the truth. It is un-American." And then Trump delivered the line that probably meant everything to the Cuellar family. "Henry, I don't know you, but you can sleep well tonight. Your nightmare is finally over." Think about that. Trump pardoned a Democrat, a guy who voted to impeach him twice, once for the Ukraine phone call, once for January 6th, and Trump still pardoned him. Why? Because the charges were politically motivated garbage, and Trump knew it. Here's where it gets interesting, Patriots. How did the media react? How did Democrats react? House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, one of the most partisan Democrats in Congress, went on CNN and said that the indictment was very thin to begin with and that the charges were eventually going to be dismissed. He called it the right outcome. Even Jeffries admitted this prosecution was bogus. Just let that sink in. And even the harsh Trump commentator Stephen A. Smith said Trump was brilliant for the move. Smith said Trump was giving the Democratic Party lessons in how to operate politically. He pointed out that Democrats can't attack Trump for being partisan when he's literally pardoning their own members. But here's the real story. It's not about the pardon. It's about what Cuellar said 3 days later. So Sunday morning, yesterday, Fox News. The show is Sunday Morning Futures with Maria Bartiromo. Congressman Cuellar sits down for an interview, And what he reveals should be investigated by Congress, the Inspector General, and frankly, a special prosecutor. Bartiromo asked Cuellar directly, "Do you believe you were indicted because you spoke out against Biden's open borders?" Cuellar's response? Absolutely. The president was right. And I now, looking at all the evidence and looking at everything, I definitely feel that I was weaponized. Well, there it is. A Democrat congressman on national television admitting the Department of Justice was weaponized against him for his political speech. But it gets worse. Cuellar then drops the real bomb. He tells Bartiromo that during discovery, when they got to see all the evidence the DOJ had gathered, they found something shocking. The DOJ ran a sting operation against him, a separate sting operation designed to entrap him into taking a bribe. Cuellar describes it. They set up a false company, false account. They took out money. We saw all this. They took out the money, and they said this money was to bribe me. The DOJ created a fake company. They set up a fake bank account. They took money out of that fake account and tried to funnel it to Cuellar as a supposed bribe. What happened next is key. Cuellar's D.C. staff was approached by these DOJ operatives. And you know what his staff said? No. They told the DOJ there was nothing there. They refused the bribe. And because Cuellar's team wouldn't take the money, the DOJ operatives actually returned the money to the fake account. The sting operation failed. Cuellar couldn't be entrapped because he and his staff are apparently honest. So what did Biden's DOJ do? Did they drop the investigation when their entrapment scheme failed? Did they say, well, we tried to bribe him and he refused, so clearly he's not corrupt? No, they indicted him anyway. Let me say this clearly. The Department of Justice tried to manufacture a crime, and when they couldn't manufacture it, they proceeded with charges they knew were weak. Cuellar emphasizes to Bartiromo, not a single person that testified said there was a quid pro quo. Not a single person. He saw the grand jury testimony during discovery. Nobody testified that Cuellar exchanged his congressional influence for money. The DOJ had no case, and they knew it. Want more proof? Cuellar reveals that the local DOJ office in Houston, the office that would normally handle a case involving a Texas congressman, refused to participate. Cuellar says, the local office, that is the one in Houston, never got involved. And from my sources, they did not get involved because they felt there was not a case and they said, we're not going to get involved. The Houston office, federal prosecutors who know the region, know the players, know the evidence, said, no way. This isn't a case. So where did the prosecution come from? Washington, D.C., the DOJ headquarters, the political appointees, the people answering directly to Merrick Garland and Joe Biden. Cuellar puts it bluntly. Everything came from the DOJ in D.C. It's all the DOJ people in Washington, D.C. This wasn't law enforcement. This was a political hit job. So why did they go after Henry Cuellar? What made a 20-year Democrat congressman such a threat that Biden's DOJ would try to entrap him, indict him, and destroy his family? One word: borders. Henry Cuellar represents Texas's 28th congressional district. It includes Laredo, one of the busiest border crossings in America. His constituents, many of them Hispanic families who've been in Texas for generations, were living the nightmare of Biden's open border policies. And Cuellar didn't stay silent. In January 2024, he went on Fox News and begged Biden to end the catch and release policies. He said, "You got to have repercussions at the border. The asylum law, the criteria for letting people in, can be adjusted. If you have in 1 year millions of individuals that are encountered, and then you let hundreds and hundreds of thousands of them in, that becomes the pull factor." End quote. He called catch and release what it is: the reason for the invasion. Cuellar broke ranks with his party. He backed Republican Governor Greg Abbott's efforts to bus illegal aliens to Democrat cities. He voted with Republicans on border security measures. He called out his own party's insanity. And for that, they came after him. They didn't just indict him. They indicted his wife. They threatened his family with 15 years in federal prison. Cuellar told Bartiromo, "If they want to come after me because I was a critic about open borders, that's one thing. But you don't bring the family in. You just don't do that. You don't, as a prosecutor, you just don't do that type of situation." But they did it. Because this is what Democrats do when you step out of line. Ask yourself, if they will do this to a 20-year Democrat incumbent who simply spoke the truth about the border, what will they do to you if you speak up? And here's where the story takes a twist. Hours after Trump pardoned him on Wednesday, Cuellar filed to run for re-election in 2026 as a Democrat. He told reporters, "Nothing has changed." Trump was furious. On Sunday, Trump posted on Truth Social, "Only a short time after signing the pardon, Congressman Henry Cuellar announced that he will be running for Congress again in the great state of Texas as a Democrat, continuing to work with the same radical left scum that just weeks before wanted him and his wife to spend the rest of their lives in prison, and probably still do. Such a lack of loyalty. Next time, no more Mr. Nice Guy." And Trump's right. The Democrats tried to destroy Cuellar. They indicted his wife. They ran a sting operation to entrap him. And Cuellar is staying with them? Here's my question for you, patriots. Would you stay with a party that weaponized the federal government against you and your family? At what point does self-respect trump party loyalty? This isn't just about Henry Cuellar. This is about systemic weaponization of the Department of Justice. Think about the pattern. Parents at school board meetings labeled domestic terrorists. Pro-life activists raided by SWAT teams at dawn. January 6 protesters getting longer sentences than violent criminals. Trump facing 4 indictments, 91 felony charges, all timed for maximum political damage. And now, a Democrat congressman entrapped for criticizing the border. This is what authoritarian regimes do. And here's what makes Cuellar's admission so powerful. He's a Democrat saying this. A 20-year incumbent who voted to impeach Trump twice. Even he is admitting the system was rigged. Compare this to Hunter Biden. Joe Biden gave his son a blanket pardon covering any crimes from January 2014 to December 2024. 11 years of immunity. Biden claimed the justice system was weaponized against Hunter, the same justice system Biden controlled. But if Biden believed the system was compromised, why only pardon his son? Why not pardon January 6 protesters with excessive sentences? Why not pardon pro-life activists charged under the FACE Act? Because it was never about justice. It was about protecting his family while weaponizing that same system against everyone else. Trump pardoning Cuellar, a Democrat who voted to impeach him, shows the difference. Trump pardoned him because the prosecution was unjust. Not loyalty, not family connections, but because it was right. Cuellar told Bartiromo that he's spoken with House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan about investigating the prosecutors who brought this case. That needs to happen. Congress needs answers. Who authorized the sting operation? Who created the fake company? What other members have been targeted? Why did D.C. overrule Houston prosecutors? Who at the DOJ headquarters decided to proceed despite no quid pro quo evidence? We need a special prosecutor. If the DOJ fabricates evidence and runs entrapment schemes against sitting congressmen, we have a constitutional crisis. Cuellar said prosecutors violated the Constitution. Those are strong words from someone who's seen the evidence. Think about it. If they will violate the Constitution to silence a Democrat criticizing border policy, what wouldn't they do to you? This is why Trump's 2024 victory was crucial. If Kamala Harris had won, Cuellar would be preparing for trial right now. His wife would face prison. And the message to every Democrat who might criticize the party would be clear. Stay in line or get destroyed. Patriots, We are living through a moment where the corruption is so blatant that even Democrats are admitting it. Henry Cuellar, a man who voted to impeach Trump twice, is on national television saying Biden's DOJ tried to entrap him, bribe him, and when that failed, indicted him anyway. This should be the biggest story in America, but the mainstream media is barely covering it because it destroys their narrative that Trump was the threat to democracy. It proves what we've been saying all along. The real threat came from the people who weaponized federal law enforcement against their political enemies. And here's the scary part. If they are willing to do this to their own party members, imagine what they do to you. So here's what I want you to do. Share this episode. Share Cuellar's interview. Make sure people know what happened, because the media won't do it. And ask yourself, in a country where the Department of Justice can create fake companies to entrap sitting congressmen, where prosecutors can proceed with baseless indictments even after their sting operations fail, where families can be threatened with prison for political speech, in that country, are any of us truly free? The answer is no. Not unless we demand accountability. Not unless we shine a light on this corruption. Not unless we fight back. That's what O'Connor's Right Stand is all about. Holding the line, speaking the truth, no matter the cost. Well, that's our show for today. The truth about Biden's weaponized DOJ is finally coming out, and it's coming out from a Democrat congressman. If you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe, follow, and or like button. It really helps me out, and thank you in advance. Once done here, head on over and check out O'Connor's Quick Strike. Remember, Quick Strike airs Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. This podcast is Tuesdays and Thursdays. You can find me on X at O'Connor Podcasts. Share this episode. The mainstream media won't cover this story, so it's up to us to get the word out. Have a great rest of your day. Until Thursday, keep holding the line unapologetically. This is John O'Connor, signing off.